To infinity and beyond. Ride like the wind, Bullseye. So long, partner. I am trash. With so many memorable lines of dialogue and a cultural imprint on the lives of every single millennial and Gen Z baby, Toy Story is the gift that keeps on giving over the decades. Who would have ever expected a series exploring our child playthings as sentient beings with thoughts and feelings to actually evolve into one of the greatest animated franchises of all time? Thus far, the Toy Story series has grossed more than $3.3 billion worldwide, making it the third highest grossing animated franchise ever, behind only Shrek and Despicable Me. Of course, with a fifth entry just around the corner, who's to say that Woody and his friends cannot swoop in to take the top spot? Announced at the D23 Expo and expected to be released in 2026, Toy Story 5 promises to put a fresh spin on the formula that has boldly proclaimed messages about the power of friendship and loyalty. Anyone who has witnessed Woody's zany television history, a long-awaited reunion with Bo Peep, or, most traumatic, gone along for the ride as a group of toys held hands while drifting down into the fiery finality of a landfill, can attest to Toy Story sequels being much more than a rinse and repeat. How does the duality of Disney and Pixar work in tandem to quite literally build a better sequel than all of their competitors? What do we know so far about Part 5? Dial it back to 1995 as we open up the doors to Andy's room and contemplate why we need Toy Story 5. Very early on, Pixar established itself as an animation company unlike any other, favoring quality over quantity. Their legacy began in full force with Toy Story, the OG of CGI animated full-length features. After Pixar's successful short film Tin Toy, Disney became interested in a full-length movie based around toys. A production deal was brokered between Apple-owned Pixar and Disney to team on a movie with Tinny as the lead character. As part of this deal, Disney had full control and complete ownership, extending to any sequels that they could then make with or without Pixar. Yes, it turns out the harmonious relationship of collaboration was not born quite so elegantly. Toy Story would become the second highest grossing film of 1995, earning over $511 million worldwide, and was nominated for 3 Oscars. The Best Animated Feature category would not be introduced until 2001. Toy Story was still awarded a Special Achievement Award as the first computer animated movie to be released. Although they did not go home with a single competitive trophy, its impact on the medium practically screamed the importance from the rooftops. Who needs to fall with style when they can soar to the top of the charts? As Pixar's first sequel ever, 1999's Toy Story 2 had the pressure of living up to the instant classic first installment. Shockingly enough, 2 was originally meant to go straight to video, and the big names in the cast were not even guaranteed to return. When the decision was made to go theatrical, the team was worked to the bone as they raced to meet deadlines and completely reconstruct the movie from top to bottom. According to Pixar co-founder Ed Catmull in his book Creativity Inc., a worker accidentally entered a delete command that essentially self-destructed all data on the server related to the movie. Even the backups were corrupted. Luckily, Toy Story 2 was saved from deletion, as an employee actually had stored a backup at home. Despite the manic production, Woody's Roundup and the trauma of When She Loved Me would carve out Toy Story 2 as a sequel that did not repeat any identical beats from its predecessor. Instead, it expanded the concepts and ideas organically, gifting us with a variety of fresh new characters to love and stunning animated environments that extended well past Andy's bedroom or the streets of his neighborhood. Toy Story 2 works as well as it does because it shifts focus to the feelings of the toys themselves in being abandoned or unwanted to their children, who may outgrow them. Audiences and critics both agreed. The film sits at 100% on the tomato meter, the same score as the first. By the end of its run, it grossed a phenomenal $511.4 million, according to Box Office Mojo, in spite of the wild production woes. It would take 11 years for the next chapter to come together, and it was once going to be a completely different kind of trilogy capper. In 2004, Steve Jobs announced that Pixar was not going to continue its fruitful relationship with Disney past their original deal. Circle 7 Animation was created specifically to emulate Pixar by making 1 sequel per year to its properties, yet without the studio's involvement. First up was Toy Story 3. over 40 different versions were pitched to Disney, including one draft that would find the gang wrapped up in a whodunit set in Andy's grandmother's attic. The version that was pretty far along saw Buzz recalled to Taiwan, with the other toys following him there on a rescue mission. With a new CEO at Disney, they purchased Pixar in 2006 to the tune of $7.4 billion. Subsequently, Circle 7 was disbanded, along with substantial work on a Monsters, Inc. sequel titled Lost in Scaradise. In a 2012 interview with Animated Views, the duo behind the nearly made feature, Bob Hilgenberg and Rob Muir, lament not being more knowledgeable about the Disney and Pixar feud that was happening. They also mentioned that their opening scene was nearly identical to the one in the movie, just put in the Old West. Regardless of the versions that didn't happen in the huge kerfuffle between studios, the one that did has left a lasting impression. For Toy Story 3, Andy's crew had a playdate with destiny as they were mistakenly donated to the demented Sunnyside daycare. Their touching send-off to Andy may have had a budget of $200 million, but its earnings worldwide justified that price tag. Over $1 billion worldwide later, Toy Story 3 reigned supreme as the highest-grossing animated film of all time, up until being dethroned by Frozen, The Incredibles 2, and Inside Out 2. By tapping into our inner child and touching on nostalgia and heartache, the 5 Oscar nominations and widespread acclaim would make 3 a trademark installment nearly impossible to replicate. Since Disney now owns Pixar, 4 was a much smoother process creatively. Strangely enough, Pixar president Jim Morris told Disney Latino during an interview that it is not a continuation of the end of the story of Toy Story 3, and said it will be a love story. Instead, with Andy in their rear view, the toys have a different day-to-day living experience with adorable toddler Bonnie. The crux of Toy Story 4 is Woody's former relationship with Bo Peep, who he discovers is actually now a lost toy that lives out on her own with no human attached to hold her down. The thrilling opening scene with Bo and Woody's goodbye makes for a neat kind of opposite to the film's ending. Where we last left our main toys, Buzz urged Woody to listen to his inner voice and part ways with Bonnie and the gang, opting to follow his true love Bo Peep on a new journey. Woody leaves Jessie with his sheriff's badge and bids farewell to all of the toys. Bonnie starts first grade, and Forky has a new girlfriend, as yet unnamed other than Bonnie's own handwriting on her foot. Though some viewed 4 as an unnecessary accompaniment to 3's emotional crescendo, it still won Best Animated Feature at the 92nd Academy Awards, and grossed just slightly higher than 3's billion-dollar landmark. There was also Lightyear, a decent distraction, yet one riddled with stylistic inconsistencies and a different voice actor. The idea was that Lightyear would be the movie young Andy had seen to get him obsessed in the first place, but that was not made overtly clear either within the script itself or in the marketing materials. This concept, while novel, may have been a bit more difficult for general audiences to digest. It probably didn't help that they added in a twist about Zurg actually being a version of Buzz that had traveled through time and tried to change the past. Lightyear was a major box office bomb, grossing just $226 million worldwide and citing losses of around $106 million. We come to Toy Story for toys, not for actual Space Ranger antics. Each sequel in the Toy Story franchise ultimately focuses on a different life lesson, be it saying goodbye, finding one's worth, or the power of friendship, dodging the repetitive nature of franchises like Despicable Me or Madagascar. Every entry is entirely different from the last, with the one through line being the strength of these layered characters. However, with Toy Story 3 acting as a definitive ending to the friendship with Andy, and Part 4 giving Woody a fittingly perfect epilogue, where does that leave Toy Story 5? All we truly know so far about Toy Story 5 has been teased in a bit of production art, showing the gang at the foot of Bonnie's bed as she appears to be more wrapped up in a tech tablet than in playing with her toys. Curiously enough, this concept art features Slinky, Ham, Jessie, Bullseye, Forky, Rex, Buzz, and Woody. Woody, who was last seen on a crusade to unite toys with children, co-piloted by Bo Peep, her sheep, Duke Kaboom, and the perpetually connected Ducky and Bunny. Unveiled at Disney's massive annual event D23, the 5th entry seems to be farther along than expected, as audiences were also treated to a teaser trailer. In this brief glimpse, the Claw pulls up an alien along with the title treatment, Toy Story 5. Woody, Jessie, and Buzz wordlessly greet the audience, giving us virtually nothing else other than the obvious fact that all three of these central players will be returning. In the aftermath of the stunning box office success of Inside Out 2, Pixar's chief creative officer, Pete Docter, reiterated to Fandango that 5 will focus on screen time, or more specifically, the challenges in getting children to play with physical toys rather than electronic ones such as video games. Beyond this semi-tease, we also know that mainstay Andrew Stanton will be in the director's chair this time around. Previously, Stanton brought to life both Finding Nemo and its critically acclaimed 2016 sequel, Finding Dory, as well as the beloved and nearly dialogue-free WALL-E. Additionally, Tim Allen also shared on The Tonight Show that though he was reluctant to return, the writer that's doing it wrote one of the better ones and said, "If I didn't get this right, I wouldn't do it." Allen went on to add that 5 could be a very, very interesting way to reunite it. What else can we expect from Toy Story 5? An obvious route to explore? The parallel between Woody versus Buzz and toys versus tablets. A novelty item set to dethrone what came before. Can both exist in tandem? Can screen time and playtime be evenly split? A parental figure coming up with a compromise would seem to wrap up everything too neatly. The writing needs to present intelligent messaging beyond the surface-level technology against toys. There needs to be a thrust for Bonnie to eventually realize how much her toys should mean to her. Maybe Forky could be the key again. New characters, at least 1 or 2 of them, would go a long way. 2 introduced us to mainstays Bullseye, Jessie, and Mrs. Potato Head. 3 brought in the hilarious Barbie and Ken, as well as Mr. Pricklepants, Buttercup, and Trixie, not to mention horrifying villain Lotso or his cohort Big Baby. 4 gifted us Forky, as well as wisecracking Duck and Bunny, and Canadian stunt driver Duke Kaboom. Maybe an equivalent here could be some kind of artificial intelligence villain that the toys are forced to interact with. Tying in at least one new major addition could go a long way. A Randy Newman soundtrack complete with a new tune seems to be a given, especially if Pixar wants that automatic Oscar nomination for Best Original Song. Revisiting some of the classics isn't entirely out of the question either, but that angle depends on just how nostalgic they are trying to get with the story. One aspect of the 4th film that was difficult to swallow was that the core team was broken up quite a bit, with a main focus on Woody, considering it acted as an epilogue to his tale. Depending on how or when they weave Woody back into the storyline, it would be refreshing to return to the teamwork and camaraderie of the 2nd and 3rd movies. While it certainly works to have characters off on their own and could provide interesting narrative juxtaposition, having split up the unit at the close of 4 may make a reunion that much more emotional. Nevertheless, it's important not to negate the ending of the previous movie. Some of the toys were sidelined a bit in the last couple entries, so greater depth for some of the less central characters could be an interesting route to travel. Potential relationships with human characters could be a different direction to take. Bringing back an adult Andy in any capacity probably wouldn't work, but there are other options. Seeing Sid as an older, more evolved person would bring the story full circle. Though he was featured in a scene or 2 from Toy Story 3, we do not see him interacting directly with the toys, even as he carts around the dump trucks. How has Sid been affected by what he witnessed as a child? A similar balancing act should probably happen with where we leave the toys. Whether open-ended or giving full closure, audiences need to feel as if the lengthy wait between titles was actually worth it. No one wants to walk away feeling that continuing the undying legacy of Toy Story was a mistake. Each entry has felt crucial in one way or another, so we'd better expect the same to be said for 5. Fun cameos and Pixar Easter eggs are a must. Maybe nothing will top the Hall of Everything in Soul, but eagle-eyed fans who have followed the journey of this revolutionary studio since the beginning have certain expectations at this point. As long as they throw in a few of these nuggets, they're sure to win over some skeptics in the process. Bring back the iconic voice cast. No one wants Chris Evans to be playing Buzz Lightyear. Maybe that just barely worked for a one-off, but in the mainline entry, there can be no other Buzz. Other than those who have since passed away, such as Don Rickles, Jim Varney, and Estelle Harris, we hope to see the obvious players back in action. Lastly, emotional complexity is a no-brainer. The best kinds of Pixar movies are the ones that tune to the wavelength of both the parents and the children in the audience. Big emotional moments for the returning characters have to be earned, as well as for the human counterparts. Seemingly, Bonnie will still play a massive role. Giving her character a satisfying arc should bleed over into the emotions of the toys at large. Realistically, Toy Story could continue with no end in sight, or at least spin-offs about other characters if they do not return. But does anyone really want to see the franchise take that route? Judging by the past 2 attempts at dodging potentially subpar pratfalls of major Disney franchises, Toy Story works best when it taps into our emotions on the big screen. Expectations will be high to see if Pixar can once again capture the magic. Like it or not, the era of the sequel is alive and thriving. With Toy Story 5, Disney and Pixar have the chance to prove the skeptics wrong by delivering a quality entry to their most iconic series. Whether this translates to revisiting characters from the past or forging ahead with a fresh roster of additional toys, expect eye-popping animation. And hopefully, sequences even halfway as memorable as a simple tea party with Mrs. Nesbit. What do you want to see from Toy Story 5? Which characters should be highlighted this time around? Can Pixar's first 5-quel manage to maintain the quality established so far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to never miss a video.